Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Just a quick disclaimer, this meeting is being recorded. So if you don't want to record it, you may want to drop off now. So today, our topic is Azure Logic Apps Preview, which was announced at Ignite. We talked it briefly. If you have been to our previous sessions, um, we talked it briefly about, what this preview is all about. But today we are gonna kind of took a bit deeper dive, look at different features, what's there, what's not there, and why I'm so excited about it. So quick bio about myself, Logic Apps preview. So first of all, just a couple of slides. I just want to make sure we capture everything here. The main thing is uh, it has a great development experience. One of the big thing about Logic App was, okay, you have to do Logic App if you want to use the um, editor. You have to use Visual Studio or you have to use the portal. But now they have added that full editing support into VS Code. So you will be using that, and that kind of provides you the ability to do it. And it has all the kind of CI, CD, and DevOps stuff that developers like, end-to-end experience. You can integrate now with GitHub Actions, things like that. Second thing is deployment model. Um, so what they have done is they have taken out the uh, runtime capabilities of Logic Apps, the workflow, and you can now host it. You can run it from command line on your machine. You can host it in a container. You can put it on a function, uh, Azure Function or Azure App Service or Kubernetes. So basically, you have uh, all the options. And what is the advantage of that? So as you use different hosting model, you take the characteristics of that hosting model. So let's say if you have an app service that is integrated to a VNet, has a private endpoint, so you will have all those things for your logic app. You don't have to wait about, okay, when the private link support be there or when VNet integration will be there. You can have it just with that. So that's a very, very powerful feature. I think this is kind of one of the key things that customers are gonna like. And then new designer, they have made enhancements to the designer. What they have done is they have moved the properties of the um, steps on a side, and we will take a look at it. And that's hopefully makes clear to everyone what we're talking about. And of course, one of the customer asked was they want performance with the uh, Logic App workflows. So they have split into two. One is a stateless. So if you just have stateless activities where you don't want to maintain state, their stateless workflows are extremely fast and they can give you a true API type experience where you can orchestrate different APIs and just do it in a stateless manner. And of course, you have stateful APIs as well. We will look at some of the limitations once we come back, and we will talk about them when we go through the demo. In the meantime, any questions so far? Okay, so let's start with a, sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the experience on the machine, like how you do it. So I'm going to create a new folder. And if somebody is not familiar, this is VS Code, and I'm creating a new folder. So first of all, there are some prereqs that you have to meet before you can run your Logic apps on your machine. Few things you have to install. There is a certain, if you have .NET 5 installed, you have to set up some kind of its global.json file to make sure it's the right framework version, .NET Framework Core version that it works with, because that's the version that is needed. Second thing is At this point in the public preview, Mac is not supported. I know some people may be disappointed, but the designers are not there for Mac. It is coming, but it's not there yet. Okay. So, and then what you will have to do is you will have to add a certain, oh, sorry, I want to go to the extensions. You will have to add a certain extension. So there, this is the Logic Apps. You have to use Logic Apps Preview extension. This will not do the job. This is the one you need, Azure Logic Apps Preview. That's the extension. And by the way, there is in the resources, I have provided links to both of these articles. This is the initial from Microsoft, who is the program manager. And the second one is this detailed walkthrough. Make sure you go through it carefully because there are a few steps that you have to take to make sure you can run this on your machine. How to, like this one, set up Visual Studio Code. So just keep that in mind. And we're going to talk about a few of these steps. So you will see that it also talk about this extension. You have to have that extension to have the design time experience. Okay, so here we are. What we're going to do is we're going to go, you will see this logic apps pan, and we're going to we're going to create a new project, and we're going to call use the same folder, and we are going to call it APL Azure Power Lunch HTTP demo. Okay. Okay, I think I clicked the wrong one. Let's do it again. Sorry, I am fumbling the demo, but let's do this one last time. I'm gonna select this. Oh yeah, sorry. This is the two types of workflow. You have stateless and you have stateful. So what we're gonna do just the stateless one, okay? And we're gonna call it APL HTTP demo. Okay. With that, I'm gonna say yes. It is gonna say it's creating the project behind the scenes. Folder. Let's see what the usual file folder. You have work with Azure Function in VS Code. It's very similar file structure. Okay, you have the host.json file, you have local settings.json file. Everything is here. Any question? Okay. So let's move on. So now you want to use the editor, right click on the workflow.json and say open in the, and what it will do is it will start opening it up in a designer. Just keep in mind, it may take a minute sometime. Okay, so there are connectors which are available built in, but if you are running that on a local machine, those connectors are local connectors like transformations, like loops, things like that. But if you want to use services in Azure, like you want to call a database, you want to send out an email, things like that, you need connectors from Azure. So that's why I'm just going to use connectors from Azure. It's asking me what subscription you want to use. And the next thing is it's asking me for the resource group, because what it does, if you have used logic apps in the past, it takes those connectors and stores those that metadata into that resource group. So that's why it's asking for a resource group. So once that is done, here we go. Look at the editor experience. Um, in the preview, there are only 4 triggers available: HTTP, service bus, message into a queue or a topic, and event hubs. That's it. There are no other trigger support in the public preview. It will come at some point, but not right now. Okay. So let's start with the HTTP trigger. So I'm just going to add this HTTP trigger here, and then I'm going to click here. Look at the experience. Before, it used to be on the same editor side where sometimes it was confusing. If you have too many steps, then you integration, all of that Now it's on the side. And if you are not interested, you can click on it and you can hide it. But of course, we're going to use it. So um, I'm just going to provide a sample schema. I'm going to say ID and I'm going to say 1. So this is that. And with this, got it. So this is, I created a schema for it and JSON schema. So the next step is I'm going to call a SQL database. So let's basically what this workflow is all about is getting some data from a SQL database and sending an email about. So some customers, let's think of it, they type in the ID of a particular ad, and then they will get the information about that ad. So that's the goal of it is. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click on Azure and I'm going to call for SQL and it will show me all the SQL connectors which are available. I'm going to use SQL Server and I'm going to do get row. Okay, so I've already created that connection. This is the API connection. If you want to change it, you can create a new connection. So basically here is a new one. You can click on add new and then you can provide the connection information. It will store that information as a part of the metadata. So you can use that connection moving forward. Okay. So at this point, I don't want to change it. So I'm just going to use, this is an Azure SQL database. This is the name of the server, name of the database, the table name. This is the name of the table that I'm going to use. And once again, the great thing about logic apps is this design experience, where it's a zero code experience. So where I'm going to get the unique identifier, I already have defined a schema so that the JSON that I'm expecting, it has an ID parameter, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so with that, I'm done with this activity. Next, I want to send an email as well to notify somebody to make sure they know that we got a query about an ad. So I'm going to go to Azure one more time and I'm going to type in Outlook and let's use our Outlook connector. So this is the Outlook 365, Office 365 Outlook. So I'm going to go in here and send email from a shared box. Once again, I have created a connection here. You can, once you do it, you can create your own connection if you don't like this connection. So if I go into change, you can create that new connection. Okay. So let's provide the email address box. I'm going to use this one. And who I'm sending to, same address. This is just a test. Subject, once again, it shows me what is the output from the previous activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the output from the previous activity, and I'm going to use that for, you know, use that output in the subject. So I'm going to use title in the subject, and in the body, I am going to use description, and I'm going to use, let's say, price. Okay. So with that, that's there, and let's save this thing. Oh, let's add one more step, and this is gonna be the response. So this is HTTP request came in, and this is the HTTP response, and I'm just gonna put in the body title as well. Okay. With that, I'm just gonna save it, and let's run this thing. So this is running locally entirely on my machine. It is calling, and you will see this. This applies, this connection will be valid only for 7 days. This applies for your local development. This does not apply if you have deployed this thing into Azure. It doesn't apply to it. Okay, so just ignore it. Let's run this thing. I'm just gonna go run start debugging. So you will see some very familiar stuff. If you have run Azure Functions on your machine, it's kind of a very similar style experience. So let it run. Let's see what happens. And it's going to load up. And Give it a second.
Naveed, there are a few questions from the chat, so whenever.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please. Go ahead. I think while it is debugging, let's ask the question.
All right, so first, when I create new connection, is that new connection sitting in the local project or getting created in resource group we pointed?
It is created in the resource group. It's there in the local project as well, but in the resource group as well too. Yeah.
The follow-up to it, if it's created in the resource group, I don't see it completed CI/CD friendly when I want to promote it. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. Actually, this is gonna be something that we will discuss in detail once we get to the CI/CD. This is basically like we are peeling the first layer of the onion. Okay, what is the hosting experience? What is the design time development experience? How it looks like when you deploy it in Azure. Okay, the next probably maybe another session we will go deep dive into the DevOps experience. So probably, hopefully, I should be able to better address them at that point. Okay, so
There are some more. Nabil, let me know when you want
go
to.
ahead.
Can I have function and logic app in the same project?
Can you have a function and a logic app in the same project?
Yeah.
I haven't tried it. To be honest, I haven't tried it. We will do it after this test. We will see if we can add it to the same one. Let's give it a shot. So let's first try to see if we can how we can run it locally. So this is so you have to click on the overview, and it will give you the URL of the function to execute. So we're gonna just take this URL, and we are going to go in here, and let's paste this URL here, and let's send this, and it will run in a second. Let's see. And by the way, you will see it. So it ran, it returned some data. And if I go into my mailbox, sorry, it should have an email here in a second. This is the email. So as you can see, this email has arrived. Point is, this is the design time experience. Okay. Give it 1 second. And let's what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop debugging, and at this point let's see if we can push it into Azure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the Azure tab, Azure control, and I'm going to deploy it. So it's going to ask me where you want to deploy. It's going to ask me, do you want to create a new logic app? Yes, I'm going to create a new logic app, and I'm going to call it once again NC APL HTTP. This is the name that I'm going to be using. A hosting plan, once again, you can do it either in app service plan. At this point, it can only be Windows or a premium function plan. So it's if you know, Elastic premium function plan. And once again, it has to be Windows only right now at this moment. Okay. So let's select the Windows service plan. I'm going to use that. This is the one I have recently used, Logic App Plan. So this is the resource group. I'm just going to use the same resource group. For the storage account, I'm going to use the same store and happen. Okay, let's try again. I think I clicked the wrong button or something. Let's try again. So this is the Logic app. Sorry, let me start one last time. Yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to okay. So this is the name of the globally unique name, app service plan, and it's going to ask for the app service plan. Give it a second. Hmm. Normally it shows up. Okay. Anyways, let's try one. Okay, came back. So this is the app plan I'm going to use. This is the resource group, and I'm going to say just create a new storage account, and I'm going to use store. Okay. And with that, skip for now. So it's going to start deploying this application. Okay. Since we are a bit short of time, we will come back to it. It will take a few minutes to deploy this thing. I'm going to show you how this deployed application will look like in Azure. So let's go into our, um, this is a logic app that we have already deployed. Okay, this is basically how it will look like once it's deployed. This is the usual Azure stuff. Any resource deploy, you have activity log. I mean, pretty boilerplate stuff. This is where you have the um, workflow. So this is where your workflow will show up. Just keep in mind if you have deployed a workflow from on-prem, you can see it in the designer, but you cannot change it. Okay. But at the same time, you can go in and you can add other workflows to it, okay, which you can uh, make changes to, okay. But you cannot edit an workflow that you have deployed from on-prem. You can only edit it from on-prem. It cannot be done in the on both sides, okay. So just keep that in mind. This is the interesting part. Deployment slots. Look, I mean, deployment slots are there by default. So you can have like dev, test, UAT, all these. This is the configuration, pretty standard stuff. This is just like any app service configuration. Um, Identity. It will turn on identity by default, and it highly recommends that you use the identity of your logic app to access the resources. This is to me the killer feature. These two. VNet integration, so you can integrate with a VNet. You don't have to, I mean, you have now options. You don't have to use ISC if you don't want to use it. I, ISC is integration service environment. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Or um, you don't want to use, you want to use like do VNet integration and want to access private endpoints, use this. With this, you can configure VNet integration, same experience as app service. Okay. You want to create private endpoint for your web app. Here you go. That's how you create private endpoint for your web app. Okay. Scaling out, you automatic scale in, scale out, all of that is available. So all the feature, that's the powerful thing about this hosting model, that it is kind of very flexible. You can host it on your web app and it takes all the characteristics of the web app here so you can take advantage of it. So let's quickly go back to our, okay, so the deployment has completed. So let's look at our web app. Sorry, logic app. Let's go in here. This is my resource group. Let's have that. Yes, it's here. So we can go in here and you will see those connections that we have. They should show up here as well. So these are the two connections that we are using. This is our workflow. And if we go in here and we look at, this is the link to call the workflow. So I can go in here, I can put that URL, and once again, let's say I do 7 and I send it. This is running. And I'm sure this is a new email has arrived. So this is the same flow. Now it's running entirely in the cloud. Okay. Let's go back to our, so here. So all the things that we needed from this, I mean, it takes all the characteristics of existing web app that is running, that's hosting it. Any questions? Are there any questions in the IM window? Ala, if you can.
There's a
Thank you.
good conversation from the chat. If you want to, guys, go off mute and ask. Otherwise, the main discussion is still this. Can we have a logic app and a function app in the same?
Oh, let's try it. Oh, I mean, what's we got to lose? So we are here. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a function. We are not going to add a, yeah. So basically, it seems like no, because it's asking initialize project to use with VS Code. So it does not recognize. So I think you can have two projects side by side, but but you cannot have logic app and function app in the same project. You can have multiple logic apps. So for example, I can go in here and I can add another logic app. So I can say, let me create another logic app. I'm going to call it APL SB service bus demo. So this is the service bus app. So I'm just going to add this, and basically I can just go in here and I can start editing this app, start setting other triggers. For example, like here, I can add a uh, service bus trigger here. Okay, so that's definitely I can do. There are no issues, but I cannot, I think, mix functions and logic apps. Okay, good question. So there's a question: are integration service environment becoming obsolete with this? Um, I don't think so. I think there's going to be customers who are going to be taking advantage of that, that VNet injected model. So there are customers who are going to be using it. I think what it does is it gives you more options, and more options are always good for our customers. Oh, just keep in mind at this point, one of the limitation is you cannot deploy this logic app preview on an integration service environment. You can deploy it on app service, you can deploy it on function, but you cannot deploy it on a integration service environment. So quickly going back to our slide deck, um, this is some of the unsupported feature that you should be aware of, as it is in preview. So I just wanted to have them pointed out in the slide deck so you can keep it as a reference. So if any other questions, please speak up.
So I have one more question. Like, are there any plans on pointing a logic app to a AKS cluster and have everything seamlessly deployed?
Uh, I'm not aware of it, but you can certainly do it because you can run logic app in a container. If you can run it in a container, then you can deploy that container into AKS. If you're asking about a point and click experience, it's not there as of today, but who knows? Maybe it's there tomorrow. I don't have a timeline. I mean, I don't know if that way, but yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, folks, we are right on time. So if there are no questions, thank you again for joining the discussion, and I look forward to seeing everyone, um, next week.
Thanks, Naveed.
Hey,
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
by the
day.
way, yeah, Logic Apps Preview, you don't have to have any request any access. I saw just a question. You should just follow the steps, and you should be able to use it. Yeah, so you don't need any access to it. There is no whitelisting required. Okay. Thanks again. Okay, folks.